Tonight on the Guy at the Movies podcast with Joe and Sean, someone named Sean Chandler is stopping by to chat everything Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Tune in right after this.
Change the game just now. I have a rave.
These are the best ideas I've ever heard.
I'm saying that's the commentary that will exist.
A Barbie girl in a Barbie world.
Defiled Mickey Mouse.
Oh my god!
Welcome to the Guy at the Movies podcast with Joe and Sean. I am Joe. He is Sean. And we have other Sean here today. Sean Chandler, how goes it?
I am good. So excited to talk a new Marvel movie. Fun times. And it kind of even a bigger deal, a new Sam Raimi movie.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's been the response I feel like has been, oh yeah, that's a fun Marvel movie. Oh my God, Sam Raimi's back. It's been crazy.
Yep.
Sean Chandler, how have things been? You've been on I keep calling it the lecture circuit, like Michael Scott in The Office. How are things going?
Mm-hmm. It's been good. I feel like I'm trying to make up for 2 years of the world being shut down. So if everything plays out right, I'm going to have 4 months straight where I'm going to speak in different Comic Cons in different states. And in just a couple weeks, I'm going to do my Sean Chandler Across America tour. And I'm going to be in Florida on the one weekend. And then in the middle of the week, go to Las Vegas for a couple of days and then go to LA for a few days, all in a week. So making up for lost time.
Is there a bus for the Sean Chandler tour?
If only I'd thought ahead. If only I'd planned ahead, I would have had a bus. It would have been painted on the side and everything. But no, good old-fashioned planes. And then one thing I specifically want to do, I rented a car to drive from Vegas to LA, since that seems to be a famous drive that I see in the movies. And by the movies, I just mean The Hangover. And so I just wanted to do that drive so I could understand that film better.
There you go. It's funny when I see people that I follow from LA and then like the next, couple hours later, they're in Vegas. I'm like, oh, I guess that is pretty close there.
Well, when I met you a month ago, that was the big thing that just shocked me of how close everything is where you live to each other. I'm in Central Texas, driving 5 hours in any direction, and I'm still in Texas. Like, it's 6 hours to get out any direction. And then in the last hour driving to meet up with where I met up with you in Philadelphia, we passed through like 4 or 5 different states in the span of 30 minutes. And we're in another state again? What's going on? What is this? And I was like, oh yeah, not everywhere is like Texas, in particular, Central Texas.
Yeah. East Coast, baby. It's a blessing and a curse. Mm-hmm. Mr. Math Teacher Movies himself, how's it going?
I'm doing great. I ran a 5K road race yesterday, and I haven't run in 2 years.
Wow.
So every inch of my body is writhing in pain. I taught from my desk today. I said, all right, kids, get out your worksheets. I'm going to nap.
I support it. I think that's a great decision. When we were chatting earlier, you were working on content for Math Teacher Movies. So.
Oh, God, yes.
Excellent. Well, guys, we have a lot to get to tonight. Of course, we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness that came out. But one of the things attached to that was the long-awaited first look at Avatar 2. So Avatar, The Way of Water. And let's start off with Sean Chandler. What did you think of this little tease that we got of James Cameron's second of 5 films?
So I didn't get it on my press screening. And so I was pretty bummed because as soon as I got out of Doctor Strange 2, hopped on Twitter and I saw a number of people like, hey, just saw Avatar 2's trailer and Doctor Strange 2. And I was like, I didn't get to see it. This is messed up. And so went to my opening night screening of it. And that was actually what I was like excited about with my wife. Like, hey, they're going to show the Avatar 2 trailer. We're going to get the Avatar 2 trailer. She's like, yeah, I don't care. So you don't have to keep telling me that. And every time a trailer started, I started, this could be it. Could be this one. And I'm watching. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to keep elbowing me. I know what I'm supposed to be excited for. And then we got it. And it looked like Pandora. It looked like Avatar. That's it. That's all I got. I mean, it like I literally was watching it. I was like, this feels like this could just be a deleted scene from the first movie about them going to the beach for a couple days. like training at the beach. Because without any plot, without any like introduction of a new planet or dramatically different worlds, big blue creatures running in forests and in water, that just looks like the first movie. And so that it's tangible, that it's really happening, that we're getting it, that's cool. I'm excited about that side to it. But as for the trailer itself, did it actually like blow my mind with all the exciting? No, it just kind of was.
Yeah, that was kind of the feedback in the theater when we saw it before Doctor Strange. They played it on loop for us a few times, which was
okay.
They forgot to play Doctor Strange.
One more time.
So it was kind of ingrained in my mind after that. I thought it was beautiful in the sense that they were clearly just trying to establish that, hey, we're going to play with water here. Like we're expanding the world a little bit. But I thought there were some beautiful shots in there. The underwater shot is the one that I have been raving about since I saw it. And then when the trailer was online today, I screenshotted it, and it may now be my background on my phone. But Mr. Math Teacher Movies, your thoughts on going back to the world of blue?
I mean, it looked very, very beautiful. I will say that with me, like, unfortunately, I'm someone who's like just given the last looks at my phone during the trailers. And so I thought they were just doing like the meditation sounds, like just before like Doctor Strange starts. And so like for a while, I wasn't looking up for my phone. Then all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is the one I was looking for and stuff. So I didn't catch the beginning of it the first time, but I've caught it on YouTube now. It looks absolutely like beautiful. It looks wonderful. So did the first. I hope this one has like, I'm not expecting like, I'm not going to be one of those people like the plot of Avatar was subpar. It's like, of course it is. It's like, you're looking at a bunch of giant blue people on a planet and it looks beautiful. That's what you're going to see this for. So I'm hoping that, it still delivers on those looks. I hope they at least like give a plot that doesn't just like straight up bother me like the first one did. I will like, I'm going to have an open mind going in. I'm excited to see this. I'm excited to like be a part of like that crazy world again. I mean, this is Cameron. I do still love Cameron, even though like, it's like, squeeze a movie or two in between these Avatars, my guy. Like, come on, like give us a couple of other things. But I'm still just like very excited for this in general, or I should say more curious than anything else.
I told you my buddy's feedback was he hopes that this one isn't as on the nose as the first one, where like the mineral that they couldn't get was called unobtainium. That was his example.
James, we need to have an aim for the tree that's their home. Home tree. And that's lunch.
Yeah. Keeping it very accessible for all ages, Keep it simple. But yeah, hey, it's amazing that it's 13 years later that we're getting the first look of it or at it, and then we're getting the movie in December as of now. So they say. We'll see what happens. And then there's 3 others in the shoot, which is crazy to me. But hey, I'll check it out. I like the first one enough. The first one was beautiful. I will say this. This was in 3D when we saw the trailer. I don't know if you guys saw it in 3D. Mm-hmm. The 3D was stunning, and I've been over that gimmick for quite a while, but this was absolutely flawless, crisp, stunning 3D. So I'm kind of intrigued by that again, as I was, when I was 22 years old, 13 years ago. But here we go. And then it leads into the wonderful Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness that we need to talk about here today. This movie, of course, is the one that was touted as kind of blowing open the multiverse, and it did so at the box office with an estimated $187 million. The film is currently in 11th place on the all-time domestic opening weekend list, depending on which site you look at for adjusted grosses and all, But hey, we finally got that sequel. We got Wanda's Revenge is what I saw someone call it, and I loved it. This really to me was the Wanda show, which I loved. But let's go Math Teacher Movies. Your thoughts on Doctor Strange in general, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
So yeah, first with the general thoughts on the film. I mean, I did like it. My review is harsh on it because the flaws are like very prescient. There are magnificently beautiful and well-made scenes in this, and I think that's really due to Sam Raimi. I think he inherited a movie that was a little bit like broken and a tiny bit of a mess to begin with, and he fixed it up as best he could. And I think that all of these beautiful scenes that he made are strung together a little bit weakly and poorly even, and it's just such a shame because I see like this great film in there, and there's a lot of great stuff that I'm ready to talk about with it, but for the most part, it just connected to be. I hate to even say poor story, like it's because that just makes it seem like it's completely low, but there's definitely just like some flaws in it, and just the pacing of it felt a little bit. It felt like two movies, honestly. And that was one thing that like just sort of like kind of freaked me out both ways. And sometimes that can work very well. And I think in this instance, it didn't really flow as great.
Yeah, I'm in general agreement with you on that. We had talked about it a little bit offline, and we'll dive into it a little bit more as we get into more specifics. But Sean Chandler, your thoughts on what Sean said, and then lead us into the Sam Raimi conversation. Is this a good Sam Raimi film?
This is a tough question. Generally speaking, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It has its flaws. There's elements that are clunky about it, but my big takeaway after watching it 2 times, and the second time in particular, paying attention to the criticisms that I'd heard from the first batch of reviews of like, okay, let me watch it again. Let me look for what they saw or didn't see in the movie. And I still watched it the second time and was entertained by the blending of MCU, which I love so much and is responsible for this new career that I have, and Sam Raimi, in particular, Evil Dead Sam Raimi, that back in the late 90s was such a huge piece of making me love weird cinema that wasn't just mainstream stuff from Roland Emmerich where the world blew up. And this is the meshing of those together.
Yeah. And
that to me is very cool. Likewise, an MCU film that my wife had her eyes closed for 20 minutes of it. And it's a movie that if you watch horror films, it's like, it's not that hard edge. What are you talking about? Yeah. But for people that don't watch horror films, this is like this is an intense film. And like, I'm not joking when I say, like, as soon as Doctor Strange is like, who said they needed to be alive, and opens the Darkhold, her eyes are closed for the next 20 minutes of the movie. Like, and she'd open them like, okay, that's dialogue. And then it would cut to his face and she'd be like, oh, no. Until Wanda is trying to kill herself with the kids there. Like, her eyes were closed that whole sequence. And she was glaring at me whenever heads started popping. And I love that. And I love that. I tweeted out that this is not a movie you can take your kids to. I love taking my kids to Marvel movies. And someone retweeted me like, let me interpret. This guy doesn't understand that Doctor Strange is it's supposed to be a horror franchise, and he wants Marvel to just fit what he wants and be kid friendly. I was like, dude, you totally misread my tweet. Right. I love the fact that I can't take my kids to it. Yeah, like we're on the same page. It's awesome that we did a Doctor Strange horror movie that I can't take my kids to, that my wife's not going to like. That's why I liked the movie. I'm just saying I'm not taking my kids to it. People on Twitter have really good comprehension skills. So and I think that one piece to it that where people are talking about the story being a little bit thin, it feels like a throwback type of story for a comic book movie that from the Sam Raimi era, 15 years ago, in which case I kind of like that. It's a more simplistic story that isn't quite as layered with so much stuff. Whereas other people look at that and go, it feels inconsequential. I get that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just picking up on where you left off there, I went into it thinking, Multiverse of Madness, this is going to be absolutely bonkers and off the wall and crazy and so much going on. And I didn't feel that when I left. I mean, certainly things happened and it was pretty serious what was going on between Wanda especially and everyone else in the film. Mm-hmm. And we'll dive into some specifics in just a minute here when we're talking about the cameos and other pieces. But I just felt like, I don't know that I would say it was inconsequential, but I felt like coming off of No Way Home, they weren't stopping the rumor mill from running. Yeah. And a lot of it was kind of being hyped up. And this, we're going to talk about this as well, the overhyping of Marvel films. Maybe I defeated myself in that, and a lot of us did. But I felt like there was more that was needed there. Yeah. Sean, before
and it seems like almost blatantly they knew, all right, this one's coming right after No Way Home.
Yeah.
We're going to make, I mean, this movie probably easily made $50 million extra because it came right after No Way Home.
Absolutely.
And because of the rumor mill, it made $50 extra million. It would have made more than the original one, probably almost certainly, because Doctor Strange is more established. But because they didn't go like, hey, guys, this is not what you think it is. It's not that. It's a horror movie with sprinkled in a couple things.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. They let the internet go wild. And you're seeing some of that backlash already because of that.
That's going to be interesting to see how they ride that backlash and if it was worth it. But before we move any further, because we're going to get into spoilers here. So if you haven't watched it, here is your spoiler warning. Math teacher movies, your thoughts in general with Sam Raimi and his direction, kind of bringing it back to the original comic book, then the 90s or the 2000s, I guess it was, right? Was that when
early
the original
yeah.
Spider-Man? Yeah.
I mean, the best part of this movie for me is the Sam Raimi direction. Like, I was in that theater just giggling with glee at every horror moment. I mean, hey, we're in the spoiler warning, so when like all the Illuminati is murdered, I thought that was just like absolutely magical, especially Black Fork, I believe his name is. Of course, I don't know, but you know, like I saw that and I just went, whoa!
Black Bolt.
Black Bolt. Yeah, sorry, I knew it wasn't. I knew it wasn't Black Fork. But it was just these like grotesque like murders, and you know, now there's of course the gigantic debate of like, should this been PG-13 or R? I mean, I think it walks that line. I don't think it's like absolutely definitely R. I think it walks the line, but the implication of the gore was what really got to me, which is sometimes even worse than showing a head blow up.
Yeah, it's a great way to do gore or to do horrors. What this movie did of like the idea of whatever his head did.
Yeah.
It's like you knew. And then Stretchy Man stretch him out like, whoa!
Stretchy Man. We're building the new Illuminati for Marvel here.
We are just like Doctor Strange roasting everybody on the chairs. Oh, Stretchy Man, or hey, Black Fork. I think like I love. There was a comedy to the horror, which is really important. Like, yes, I was scared. Yes, there were jump scares. But, I mean, Doctor Strange is a zombie. Yeah, sure, that was like a great, like, fun moment where he's like, who says he has to be dead? And sure, it did look a little bit scary, especially with the Dark Souls. But, you know, Doctor Strange, when he has that face on him and he's, like, trying to do, like, a sensitive monologue, that's hysterical. And it's just, like, this, like really funny moment where, you know, of course it doesn't look that great. And, like, there's people criticizing that, like, oh, the makeup was terrible. I'm like, that was obviously intentional. Like, come on. It was supposed to be this goofy looking face that's like just like a zombie thing, just like kind of like working with the Strange level. And then Wanda, like, you know, as like the horrible woman, like that was Evil Dead right there when she's chasing him down the pipes and stuff. I mean, I'm telling, like, these moments were the ones that I just truly treasured in this movie, and like what made me like enjoy it quite a bit.
See, I felt like they played that too safe, honestly. And it may be the PG-13 rating, but maybe this goes back to what Sean Chandler, you said earlier about, you know, if you watch a lot of horror movies, you're taking this in a different way. But I didn't have any jump scares. I thought some of it, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, oh, that's a little bit of a different approach for how they're telling the story here. But there was never a moment where I was like, whoa.
There were children terrified and crying. Like, there was a moment where the sound like was like, you know, a little bit lower and stuff like that, and kids were crying and they're like, I'm scared. I'm like, what? I mean, guaranteed genuinely little kids, but still, I was just kind of like looking around. I was like, oh, I kind of feel bad for those guys.
Sean, that was you. That was you, wasn't it?
A little bit of me, yes.
The only reason I took my wife, because I knew she wasn't going to like, she said she didn't want to see it. And I think it's the first time with a Marvel movie, she's been like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to watch the trailer. And then when I was watching at the press screening and then John Krasinski popped up, I was like, well, I got to bring her. And then they have Chucky X roll out and it goes, you know, her and I grew up on X-Men, the animated series. Like, all right, I got to bring her. And then 1 minute later in the movie, his head pops and his neck is snapped. I was like, oh crap, I have to take her. But man, we're going to need a little marriage help after this because she's going to be so mad at me. And then
murders the Illuminati.
We're watching it, and she's like, "Oh, Tim! Look what they introduced John Krasinski. They added him into the This is." And 1 minute later, his head pops, and she just turns and just scowls at me for 20 minutes, and then Wanda's covered in blood and this walking through a hallway, furious about it. And then, Charles Xavier's neck is snapped. Actually, as soon as he goes into Wanda's head and there's the cloud she's walking, she goes, "You have to tell me right now, does he die?" And every urge in my body was telling me to lie to her and make her think it was going to be okay. But I've just enough wisdom to go, yeah, he's about to die. You got to prepare yourself. He's about to die too. And it's brutal. And then his neck was snapped very suddenly. She goes, and she's still mad at me. 5 days
Oh my
later.
gosh. It's funny. I wonder if that's kind of symbolic, the way that they treated these cameos and killing them all off. If they're like, "Oh, you want cameos? Here you go. Enjoy the 5 of them. They're gone now."
That was Kevin Feige saying, "Now shut up about Krasinski.
Yeah.
I'm casting someone else. Shut up about Krasinski."
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So, we have to get into the cameos here. We have, of course, John Krasinski as John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, or Stretchy Man if you're Sean Chandler. Patrick Stewart as Chucky X if you're Sean Chandler. Haley Atwell as Captain Carter. Anson Mount reprising his role from the short-lived Inhumans.
He had a good day because he had his new Star Trek show came out that same day.
Oh, that's him too. That's a good call.
Mhm.
Which apparently is a really good show. I need to watch that.
Yeah, I as someone that hasn't liked recent Star Trek, I actually really dug it. And then that same night, he's Black Bolt. I was like, what a cool day for that guy.
Yeah, he's back, baby.
Yeah.
Lashana Lynch as Captain Marvel, and then we'll get into some of the others a little bit later. But John Krasinski was the one that was fan casting through and through. There had been rumors for the longest time, or I guess there had been people wanting him, I should say, and then rumors that he was attached. And he and even his wife, Emily Blunt, kept shooting down a bunch of the rumors. She was tied to Sue Storm. He's tied to Mr. Fantastic. So we finally get him. It was a cool moment. But there's some stuff tied into that, right? So we also just lost John Watts as the director of Fantastic Four. And now I don't know if you guys have seen this commentary online that people are saying, how cool would it be if John Krasinski steps in to direct that movie? And then, of course, the other question is, this was a variant. This was a different universe's John Krasinski. So yes, a variant. Are we going to get John Krasinski in the actual film, or was this a one-off? So, Sean Chandler, what are your thoughts with that?
The fact that John Watts dropped out 1 week before this movie came out. So John Watts was announced about 4 months ago as directing Fantastic Four. And John Watts is the guy that did the last trilogy of Spider-Man movies. And no real updates until a week before this movie comes out, and he drops out. And then for us that were press screenings, it was like 2-3 days after that was announced. We see John Krasinski. Everyone else, it's about a week. That feels like convenient timing. That feels like there's a tie there. It might mean absolutely nothing, but I was kind of expecting an announcement today. Like, I would not be surprised if we wake up tomorrow and announce John Krasinski, Reed Richards directing Fantastic Four. That wouldn't surprise me. I'm not going to bet money on that, but I'm also not going to be surprised at all. And also, if they play that game and you like, all right, let's give the fans what they've wanted. All the YouTubers, Twitter users that have been saying John Krasinski's Reed Richards for years, let's give it to him. And then they torture him to death and pop his head and then cast someone else a week later.
Yeah.
That seems like that plays really bad with fans.
The silence, I think, has been deafening for me, because I agree. I thought that we would get some comment either from Krasinski himself or from Marvel about just like, we thank him for, participating or anything like that. And we haven't gotten anything. Adding into that, someone just mentioned this in the chat here, and I just looked it up real quick. But John Krasinski's show Jack Ryan is ending, because that was part of the negative, the other side of this. He's got that, and he's got A Quiet Place 3 that I think he's tied to directing. But hey, that's also a good example of him directing himself. He's done that before. So, math teacher movies, John Krasinski. You had an interesting take on him in the role, but then your thoughts on him moving forward.
Well, my whole situation is I was one of the people that like clapped and screamed when he came out of the sky. I was just like, "Oh my God, it's John Krasinski in the role!" Then, like after I saw him kind of like acting in it for a little while, I was like, this doesn't really like feel like the same way I imagined it. It didn't really, you know, I'm not saying he was bad at all or anything like that, but it just didn't really fit. I don't know if it was the delivery, like at the moment where it was really an intense moment where they're facing Wanda and he comes down with the gigantic stretchy arms and then he just like leans down with the stretchy arms and they come back. I was just like, well, that kind of took a little bit of the piss out of everything. For some reason, it didn't like, I don't know what it was. So I don't think it was Krasinski's fault. There's also like people that have like looked at the scene again. He's not even meeting the eye line of Doctor Strange. So
yeah,
I mean,
that was what I was about to say. I think he was just on a green screen that whole time by himself.
Oh,
I think
God,
he was
yes.
acting again. Like that's total reshoots. Like every shot with him looks detached. Even like the wide shot, it just feels like he's floating on top of the ground,
all the way over there.
Yeah, it's just it didn't look right.
It just felt weird that he had a beard. I don't know what it is. And this is coming from a guy that has a beard, but Mr. Fantastic having a beard felt off to me. I don't know why that felt so strange to me. It shouldn't. It's like, oh, people are allowed to have beards. Superheroes are allowed to have beards. They have them all the time. But like for some reason, like, I don't know, the clean cut Mr. Fantastic who's supposed to be like nerdy guy, like it just doesn't feel like, you know, he would have that beard. Maybe in like 10 other comics that you guys know about, he does. I truly don't know about this stuff, but it just felt weird and like felt off. Besides that, I do think this is, unfortunately, this is Sam Raimi we're talking about. He does like to like have a little bit of fun with the audience. It could be like a little bit of a, you know, I don't want to, for lack of a better words, troll job, where it's just like, you know, hey, here's Krasinski coming in, like doing this, and then we just murder him, and now like, you know, somebody else is going to handle it. Or maybe they cast him, I don't know. I truly don't know about this, but I feel like they would capitalize on the success of Doctor Strange by announcing this very quickly and announcing it immediately. Or maybe they're giving it some time for more people to see it so they don't spoil that cameo. And it could be any of those things. I don't know. It just, it feels like at this point, like you're saying, Joe, the silence is deafening. I think it like, let's go. Let's announce this thing already. Or we got to announce someone else or something. I don't give me something here.
Yeah. Well, and listen, one, Krasinski's beard is wonderful. So he rocks.
Oh, it's wonderful.
He rocks a beard.
Like,
two, you and I talked about this. This is like a more weathered Krasinski, is kind of, or Mr. Fantastic is how I took it. Mr. Fantastic has seen some shit in his universe, right? I mean, they've already fought Thanos and all that stuff. But what a lot of people missed, and I don't know if you two caught this, but there is a theory that links to Fantastic Four having taken place back in the 60s, or like having been around in the 60s. And it kind of goes down a quick rabbit hole, but I want to get your thoughts on it. So everyone was kind of popping off and losing their minds when John Krasinski showed up on the screen, that a lot of us, me included, missed a line that Doctor Strange says right after he sees him. And it's something along the lines of, didn't you have some hits in the 60s? So there's chat about potentially a Fantastic Four that takes place in the 60s, but the further down the rabbit hole you go, there's this whole theory that Fantastic Four in the MCU, Reed Richards in particular, they were the first ones to discover the quantum realm. And then that quantum mania it leads to the revelation that they were trapped in the quantum realm. That leads to them getting out somehow, which brings them into today's world, or, you know, wherever we are in the MCU a couple years down the road. To have them present. So listen, I don't know where that goes, but all that to say,
I just got a cavity.
There seems to be some links to or some laying foundation for Fantastic Four here. Sean Chandler, did you catch that when you saw it?
I caught the line, and then I've been in multiple conversations and fan theorizings that was kind of some version of that, so you can play around with MCU film set in the 60s, and you have Hank Pym for a little bit, and you can de-age him, and you have Michael Douglas's young hit. Like, there's a bunch of really interesting stuff that you could do if you did some stuff with the Fantastic Four in the 60s, and then tie them into the present using that. But I kind of love some of those ideas. I think if you're trying to do something fresh and different with the MCU, and not just keep layering more and more characters all in the present, you do like a Cold War kind of campy Fantastic Four movie in the 60s. That just seems like something like really fun and different. And how do you distinguish it from all these ones that just haven't worked? Man, there's like so many fun, cool things that you could do with that. I love those ideas, actually.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, this is a very different movie, obviously, because it's animated, but that is some of the appeal to The Incredibles, is that
Yep,
it is
exactly.
it's in the quote unquote 60s. It's not real. They have like some crazy hybrid time. But and that's a lot of Fantastic Four-ish kind of superheroes there. But that's just such a fun, like, with the music and everything. It's just you can have you have a blast with that. Oh, I love it. And like you just said, Sean, just separate it from what's going on in the MCU now, because we'll talk about the MCU way later in this conversation. But I'm not saying it's in trouble. I'm not saying it's sinking, but I am saying they see the iceberg. And I think that, let's try to turn left. I think this would be a great ticket into that.
I don't disagree with anything that you all are saying. I think there is a lot of opportunity here for them to do something fun and original with this. I think the key point being that they need to distinguish Fantastic Four from what's come before. Although I will say that the original pair of movies gets a really bad rap, and that first one is not terrible. Okay, that first one's not bad. The second one with Silver Surfer takes a little bit of a turn, but I enjoyed the first one a lot.
Joe, we both like you very much.
That's all I ask.
Yes.
That's all I ask. That's why I started a podcast.
I kind of hated Doctor Strange too, because I wanted Chris Evans to walk out, and you think it's Captain America, and then he goes, "Flame on." Actually, no, this is the scene. He walks out, it's Chris Evans, and he looks over and he sees Michael B. Jordan. And they look like they're making evil eyes at each other, and they walk up to each other, and then they look over towards our main villain and go flame on, and their clothes burn off of them. But they didn't do that. They didn't do my fan fiction idea that I had. So this movie was garbage.
Which brings me to my next question. In addition to Chris Evans, who was one of the disappointments of not being involved in this film, because remember back, it may have been a year ago, there was a comment or a story out there that Chris Evans had signed a contract to appear in another MCU property in some sort, of some sort, and everyone was theorizing that this was what it would be. So I'm disappointed they didn't get that. But are there any other cameos that you didn't get or characters that you were hoping for? And I'll start off. I really thought we were getting the Watcher from What If. I really wanted that to happen. I thought live action would have been wonderful, and unfortunately they didn't hit it. But I thought that was an easy addition if they wanted to.
That is a good one. I got to go with I will say it in this sort of thing. Speaking on the What If situation, because the Watcher was in What If, is the Michael B. Jordan version of Wakanda, where he is in charge. Now, he is villainous in this, but there could be another iteration where he is not. But I sort of wanted someone from Wakanda, mainly because there was a big theory that someone was from Wakanda when they dissected the trailer into a million little pieces. Of course, that goes well every time. But one of the chairs seemed like it was in the style of Wakanda. Guaranteed, actually all the chairs were the exact same, so that wasn't a real thing. But it was I wanted someone from Wakanda, specifically a Michael B. Jordan that took over and wasn't as evil, even though you could argue with him.
I think who you're referencing is Namor. Was the rumor. So he's the Atlantean, but he's going to be the villain, so to speak, of the next what was it? Wakanda Forever is the Black Panther film. And he's an original member of the Illuminati, so a lot of people thought that he would be in this, but it seems like they opted not to introduce him as a member here and waited until Black Panther actually hits.
Yeah, that's when my press screening ended. That was the conversation right next to me. The Illuminati sequence was just ruined because Namor is such an important member of the Illuminati and he wasn't in it. It's like, if you didn't like the sequence, fair enough. But this feels like you could try a different universe. You could explain this away. This isn't a reason to not like the movie. Maybe a little disappointment, but that seems a bit extreme. I don't know. For me, I didn't want Cameo Fest, so I didn't have any preconceived notions of what I wanted. And I didn't want necessarily a ton more. I think there was a little bit more fun to be had. Perhaps have some cameos of characters that didn't immediately die brutal deaths. Maybe have some of them have some wins. Find some way to do that. Maybe there was some way to get Strange Supreme from What If to come in to battle Wanda with zombie. Maybe there's something like that. But I think if you're gonna do Sam Raimi Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness and you don't do Bruce Campbell as a variant of Doctor Strange that feels like there's some way, even if it's a post-credit scene, there's something like that of like, this is the matchup of like, that's fun. Why didn't you do that? Yeah.
His involvement seemed a little weak to me. Like it was just thrown in there. And of course it's a nod to the hardcore fans of Raimi and Bruce Campbell, but his whole pizza pop, is that what he was called?
Pizza
Papa.
He sold pizza balls, which sound amazing. I mean,
yeah, that was just very very strange to me to see him in that capacity. The other one that was rumored for the longest time, and I think people probably were let down, was Tom Cruise as an Iron Man variant.
Yeah, that was a huge one.
Who I forgot about until like a couple days after seeing it. I was like, oh yeah, we didn't get him.
I want to go back to Campbell for a second just to say, like, I love that cameo in a way, just because it the big thing is that he always is like a very quick cameo. Like in the Spider-Man movies, it's like this like ridiculous little cameo, except for the wrestling announcer is a pivotal moment in the entire Spider-Man universe. But I think like first of all, I didn't recognize him, which I felt a little bit awkward about. It was until like he started beating himself up, I was like, oh, that was Bruce Campbell. Like I got so excited, and then I was just like, oh, I should have known that the whole time. He had the amazing job of the #1 troll job of the end credits scene, where he just kind of had the double meaning where he's finally stopped punching himself, and he just looked at the camera, he's like, it's over. And you know, you're supposed to hate that end of credit scene. You're designed to hate that because you wanted to see something else. You wanted to see some other new character, and instead you get Bruce Campbell smiling in your face saying it's over. That's just wonderful. Like that's like the Captain America and the Spider-Man Homecoming. That's Deadpool dressing up like Ferris Bueller. It's true. That was the one where it's like, okay, do the troll job. I love it. I'll take it.
Deadpool, the other one that didn't show up in this after people were theorizing they saw him on the poster. Remember?
So even my 10-year-old was like, Dad, I need to show you something. What do you got to show me? Look at this. And it's that picture of like Deadpool pointing at the glass that kind of looks like he's like, do you think he's going to be in the movie? That's the only reason my son is interested in watching Doctor Strange. And I go watch it and he doesn't ask, is it good? Is it bad? So is Deadpool in it? No, that's not what this movie was.
The quality does not matter.
Yeah.
Who cares? Did Deadpool show up?
I'll tell you, I didn't realize it was Bruce Campbell until the after credits scene.
Good. I'm so glad someone else was. I truly didn't. I felt like an idiot. I was like, oh God, yeah, that's Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, it took me a few minutes there.
The scene is even stranger if you don't know that it's Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
That's right. There's like the guy that I went to go see it with, he's never seen he's a good bit younger than me. He's never seen the Evil Dead movies. He's not like a movie buff in the same way that we are. Just normal kind of, he likes movies. And so, do you know who that is? He's like, no,
the pizza ball guy.
He's the pizza ball guy, right? Like, no, the actor. You don't know who the actor is? What?
He's the agent in Burn Notice.
Exactly. Don't you remember Briscoe County Jr.?
Pizza Ball is coming soon to Avengers Campus in California, probably. One character we haven't talked about, she is not a cameo. She's one of the main stars here. America Chavez is a major player in the multiverse, especially with the portal hopping, which the whole story really hinges on here. I actually really enjoyed the character. She felt a little out of place just because she is a juvenile and is, much more. She hasn't seen as much. She kind of has, but also kind of hasn't compared to what, Doctor Strange was talking about. But I don't know. Math Teacher Movies, your thoughts on Xochitl Gomez as America Chavez?
So I think it's Sochi, which threw me off because of the spelling. Yeah, Xochitl Gomez. I had to look it up on Wikipedia to be sure. But Xochitl Gomez, first of all, thoughts on her. She's amazing. She's got a great spunky attitude. She was really good. She was good at switching the emotions because it's a tough character to play because it's very mysterious. And, she's gone through a million universes and, she keeps it light. I really liked her. Her character, I want more from. I think it was not written great. I want to see more. She was a little bit of the hostage the whole time or, there was a little bit of just the moments where she wasn't given as much agency as the other characters. And that's fine. You can't have every single character having a goal, zooming around and stuff like that. But it really stunk that I knew I was supposed to care about her, but I didn't totally care about her, and I wanted to care about her. And the movie didn't really structure it enough for me to actually, like, you know, care that she was in trouble at certain points, because I was like, I don't know, we just met her. You didn't really give much. You're ham-fisting some emotion, and, you know, I guess that, you know, that's what you do. You do a backstory here, you do something, but I didn't feel anything from that. Now, she's going to be involved a lot in the future. I'm excited for that. I want her involved in the future a lot. I hope that she gets not more to do, because she was involved in this movie the whole time, but I hope there's like more, like, you know, substance behind her. Like, I'm rooting for her, though, definitely in future installations.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, you know, there's the talk of Young Avengers, I know was going on in the chat here. She definitely could pop up there. I think where she's left at the end of the film was a little surprising to me, that she's still like back there training with Wong and all that. That just seemed kind of, I don't know, a weird place to leave off. But Sean Chandler,
and I think they could have done that with one line of dialogue. You say like, hey, maybe we can train you to control your powers to be able to find your moms. And instead of that, it's just like, I'm just going to stay here with you guys.
And that piece about the moms, I mean, I think that someone just said it in the chat, and I totally agree, is that the backstory for America Chavez was a little rushed and
there's just a place you can stand on a portal and it exposes your most vulnerable private memories to everyone around.
I was like, what is this?
Like, okay, that's one way to deliver exposition in a new, fresh way. It's not good, but it is new and fresh. I've never seen such a convenient like piece of technology to deliver a backstory.
Well, and she was like, you know, basically, I killed my moms, essentially. And Doctor Strange was like, oh, but what if you didn't? And like, that's all we get there. And so obviously, I'm assuming that would be played out in the future. But, you know, in terms of the backstory that we're given for her, we just know that she's a portal jumper from the very beginning. But what did you think of her in general, the actress and the character?
I thought she worked in the movie. I didn't know what to expect going into it, because in the trailers, she's just kind of in the background.
Yeah.
She's not at all the focus. It's like you can see that she's there, but trailers didn't really indicate how she would be used, anything like that. And so right out of the gate, you know, clearly established that she has this power set that she's not quite figured out how to control yet. And then I thought she kept up with Doctor Strange and had a nice banter with him. And then at the end, is the person that uses not just her power, but her wits to defeat Wanda. And the defeat isn't might. It's what is actually at the core of what's driving all of this. Is I thought she was used pretty well in the story. And I mean, there's certainly some truth to the fact of like, she's the person on the run the whole time and then kidnapped. But I think the other tricky side to it is you already have Doctor Strange and Wanda, and you want to do multiverse fun.
Yeah.
So she's a plot device character, and they're doing the best they can with a plot device character, but she's there to progress the plot and motivate so much of what's taking place. And so I thought if you're going to do that, it was done pretty well. Not the best. We can obviously have we mentioned things that are like, wait, you literally are walking down the street and you conveniently find the memory spot. Okay. Wow.
Also,
wow.
Those are projected to everybody, and we don't know which memory it's going to be. If I step right. That, there's a lot of memories of I don't know.
Yeah. What a strange
we won't
way
go further.
Sean,
you told us about one starting when we started this. You were in a bathtub before the podcast.
That's true. That's true. Just let you guys know how the context of our conversations before this started about my bathing habits and when they take place.
Well, I just love your justification, Sean, because we said, like, you know, Sean, you look a little blurry on screen right now. He's like, oh, it's fine. I was in the bathroom. I don't know if those correlate.
So wrapping up the America Chavez conversation, the one last piece that I wanted to bring up was it kind of felt like she learned how to control her powers at a really convenient time and without much training or anything at the end to me, which I just thought that was rushed. And in all, I felt the movie was a little bit rushed in that sense. I mean, I love a shorter runtime. I'm glad that it was only 2 hours and 6 minutes. But at the same time, if you were going to go nuts, a movie called Multiverse of Madness that you've been teasing to be like this, you know, blowout, crazy adventure, really could have used some more time. When you're talking about going through the different multiverses, we saw the commercial where they're falling through. They go to the animated one at some point and all that stuff. That was really the only crazy multiversal moment we got. And I just felt like we could have gone a little bit further.
Yeah, well, and it's called Multiverse of Madness. We get that transition deal. We're like, where they're paint, they're animated. In what world do we land in? Dig this.
Flower world.
Stop on green. Go on red.
I mean, that's pretty chaotic.
Pizza in a bowl. Wow. What kind of crazy madness is this? Pizza in a bowl? Go on red?
I don't want to say this, but I'm gonna say this, where it's like, we, like you just said, Multiverse of Madness, and we're like in a couple of universes, or maybe like literally almost two. Meanwhile, Everything Everywhere All
I knew you were going there.
I know we can't compare the two. I know we can't do it. I understand we can't do it. But there was beautiful stories
and hot dog fingers.
With hot dog fingers. It was just
Talking rocks, Ratatouille.
Pinatas.
I shouldn't have done it. We're moving on. But
I was like, here he goes. He's going there.
But I don't know. I don't know. But it is a fair point. Like when you have a movie that came out 1 month ago that's actually Multiverse Madness, and that's not as accessible of a movie compared to most A24 it is. But there's so much more obvious madness, crazy that they could have put in this movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really liked it. Yeah. But it's a movie where you can just be like very quickly, easily go, if you'd added 10 minutes, 15 minutes, like Joe said, before I watched it at the opening night, I was talking with my wife and my friend I went with, like, I love that this movie's only 2 hours long. There's all the internet was complaining. It's only 2 hours long. Don't you think it needs to be 30 minutes longer? Like, no, not every movie needs to be 3 hours. I saw the Batman 3 times, like in a week, when like with the press screenings and the IMAX screening, and then opening night 3 times in a week. That was 9 hours watching the Batman. Not every movie needs to be 3 hours long. Maybe this one could have been a little bit longer.
Yeah, but that half hour of Pattinson's face on the motorcycle was definitely worth it.
Yes, very important. 2 characters we haven't touched on. I just want to make sure we highlight, of course, Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda. I thought she was great in this. It's just amazing to see how far she's grown in the role. And I think even as an actress, I would say, I think she's much more confident in the role. And as Wanda is stepping into these darker times, and, going after her kids here and trying to get them back and really just knocking down everyone that stands in her way, she's literally killing to do it. And that makes her a very scary character who has fought with them, Doctor Strange and the rest of the Avengers and other heroes that we enjoy. But is also capable of wild chaos that we were left waiting for after WandaVision. So I want to talk just your thoughts on her. We'll start with Sean Chandler there. And then I also just want to throw in Rachel McAdams as Christine. She, I thought, had a lot of good stuff to do here, honestly. She played different versions of herself in different multiverses. And I just actually really enjoyed that they gave her more screen time in this one.
Yeah, I think with Wanda, I think Elizabeth Olsen is so good at playing the multiple levels of the character. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, coming off as sympathetic, that I think a lot of the audience has forgotten the actual things that Wanda has done from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. The very beginning, she's introduced as a villain that's messing with their heads. Mm-hmm. She's on the wrong side. Like, she's a bad guy. And then realize, oh, I'm on the wrong side, and switches and teams up with the Avengers afterwards. But she starts as a villain. Start of Captain America's Civil War, she doesn't have control over powers, and oops, killed a few dozen people on it. We've all been there. We've all done that, just not with magic. Everyone's done that. And then obviously, WandaVision, like, she's just a villain. And at the end of it, it lets her off too easy. Mm-hmm. Like, that was one. I think that, like, you get to the end of it, it's like, yeah, she's a hero that saved the day. Well, saved the city from herself, like that. Right. Like, of course they're mad at her, and the show has the line of dialogue. They'll never know how much you sacrifice. Like,
she's like, just wait.
A fake family.
And right here, fake family. And people are like, yeah, Hayward was trying to like kill her kids. He went straight up film is going to shoot her kids. Like, but they're not real. They're not real. They're not real kids. He wasn't about to shoot a real kid. It's her literal fairy tale. But she's so good at playing this person that comes off as well-intentioned and is just so desperate for a family, so desperate for someone to love and to love her back, that she just goes to such dark places to pursue it and pursues it in all the wrong places. Whether dating a robot, making fake kids by enslaving a city, or, turning to the Book of the Damned to steal someone else's kids in another universe. Whichever one that is, she goes to dark places. And literally, she was in the Darkhold in the post-credit scene of WandaVision 2 years ago. She's been in this book for 2 years. And there are a bunch of people like, I just felt like she turned so fast. Like, that's just because she's really good at playing sympathetic, and you forgot the post-credit scene and 2 years have passed. Yeah. Like, could they have done more to, like, should there be, like, so many things with this movie? Should they have added a couple lines of dialogue and a scene here that fleshed things out to explain things a little bit more? I think they needed that a lot for this movie. And so maybe a scene at the beginning making it clear 2 years have passed with her like giving in to the Book of the Damned. Absolutely. Granted, that would have helped a little bit to remind people that didn't watch WandaVision or forgot how it ended. But she's always been on a dark path, and she's so good at playing those multiple levels. I'm sorry, I went on way too long there.
Is the Darkhold the book of spells from Hocus Pocus? Because the way that she was trying to suck those powers out of America Chavez was very much Winifred trying to suck the soul out of Max.
They're getting a sequel to Hocus Pocus on Disney Plus. I mean, this whole thing is just going to come back at us right here.
Wanda's her long lost sister.
That's where this is headed.
What if it's a Marvel
at the end,
movie?
She's not actually dead. It's like she's brought back by her other sister. I love where this is headed. Confirmed, Hocus Pocus 2 is an MCU film.
Yeah.
And stars Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda.
There's going to be people that jump on that. I hope you know that.
You heard it here first, Sean Chandler.
Yeah, confirmed.
We're not going to dive into the whole is she not alive. I'll just say that when the building was collapsing, there was a little burst of red light. So hey, like, they'll play with that. Strong actress.
And anytime someone doesn't die on screen,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Comic book character, they're alive.
Yeah.
Every comic book character that's ever died is alive. All of them. Just that's the theory. That's the world. That's every comic book. We all have to resign to that. It's if we don't like it, that's tough. That's what it is.
Sean, did you think, and Matthew's your movie, Sean, did you think that Rachel McAdams had enough to do here? Did you enjoy her presence in the film?
Well, if we compare her to her 43 seconds of screen time in the first Doctor Strange, like, my God, I think with this, I was actually like enjoying how much that she had to do, how much use that she had to do. She was providing a lot of the conscience of Doctor Strange. She was being the Pepper Potts, a lesser Pepper Potts, but still a Pepper Potts. I think that there was a few moments where they were there. She was though in charge of the one very annoying thing I felt, where it was the forced redemption arc for Doctor Strange, where I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, I know Doctor Strange was a douche when he was a surgeon. I get that. And then maybe he was a little bit of a rebel when he was a wizard. Okay, I get that. But he's no longer like a bad guy and stuff like that. But for some reason in this movie, they're like, you can be better, Doctor Strange. I'm like, what are we talking about here? The dude saved the world. Like, stop. What is going on with this? It just felt weird. I know there was past, but it just felt like that felt strange. But in regards to the perspective that this Rachel McAdams had in that universe, that was an interesting thing to explore, especially him having being a little bit more of a villain, or kind of a villain skirting along that way. In terms of WandaVision, I want to give the shout out also to Elizabeth Olsen's acting, because it was spectacular. It was really good. She resigned herself totally to the villain. I think you're right, Sean. A couple of lines couldn't have hurt. I mean, one of the lines could have just been removed. Please let this line be removed. Just remove it now. Is I'm not a monster. I'm a mother. It's I can't. I understand what they were doing. I get what you were pulling for there, but just no, man, not on Mother's Day weekend either. Like, don't justify it with that. There was something about that just like bugged me, and a few things about it, but really for the most part, it was like a very good closing of an arc that won't close because she'll be back in the next 8 movies because she's not dead. Because she's a comic book character, and comic book characters are never dead.
So let's start moving towards the end of our conversation around Doctor Strange and talk about where this leaves us and where we go from here. One of the other theories that's out there has to do with the inclusion of incursions in this film. And we see an incursion happen in the mid-credit scene where Charlize Theron debuts as Clea, who is basically like Mrs. Strange in the comics. That's essentially what she is. But it seems like basically 2 universes are colliding, and that starts tearing at the fabric of one another, and chaos ensues, and that leads to Secret Wars down the way. So people are thinking that we're going to have a Secret Wars. Is it Secret Wars or Secret Invasion? Secret Wars, because Secret Invasion is the show.
Yeah,
there's different things there. But that's
too many
one
secrets. It's confusing.
Marvel and its secrets.
Wars are the same as invasions.
Yeah.
What are they doing to me? What's happening?
Good point.
But we also have to look at where this is leading in terms of the other properties that we have coming up with Marvel. We have Miss Marvel hitting in June, Thor Love and Thunder hitting in July, Black Panther Wakanda Forever hitting in November, and She-Hulk also hitting at some point this year, reportedly. So, Math Teacher Movie, Sean, where do you think this is heading, Mr. Comic Book Man?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Matthew, I was going to say, Mr. Comic Book Man. That's not me. I think you threw me off for a second. I mean, Miss Marvel is the series. When it comes to a series, they're a little bit of a crapshoot, which lean more towards crap, but, you know, sometimes can shoot. Then Thor Love and Thunder, I can't imagine that not being good. And, like, maybe if it, like, people are going to maybe criticize it possibly for not being as good as Ragnarok. That's how I see it happening. It's like, it'll be a little bit less than Ragnarok, so people will be like, worst movie of the year. And it's like, no. It's still going to be a really good movie. That's how I see that one going. I think that with Thor, Love and Thunder, that is the type of movie where the director does have creative control. Everyone's saying Sam Raimi had creative control in this. I don't want to get into behind the scenes stuff, but it seems like the way things went, he had control, but it was still, like I said before, he inherited this movie when it was like there's chunks of it already done. So he had to work with a lot that he already had, and he couldn't really scrub too much. So I don't think Sam Raimi had full control. Black Panther Wakanda Forever is another one that I don't know. I don't know if that could be like I want to see some footage, first of all. Let's get some footage in there. We're seeing Avatar. Like, come on, give me some Black Panther Wakanda Forever footage. I don't like it's very tricky where that's going to go with the post-Boseman period. That's like that. I don't know with that. And She-Hulk, good Lord, there's not even a release date. Like, but with all of this, I don't know. I mean, I used to be annoyed by the people that said Marvel's in trouble. What's Marvel going to do? I don't think Marvel's got a chance here and stuff like that. And I used to get annoyed by that. This is the first time where I'm not saying Doctor Strange was bad at all. It wasn't. I did enjoy myself through it. But there was a lot of stuff in this where I started to see, is this franchise going to be okay? And, you know, I'm trusting in Feige. I'm looking forward to, like, you know, what is going to be happening with these 4 properties coming up. And I think a lot of them can be good. But there's just like a concern I have of like where this goes. Like we talk about after Endgame, what do we do? And it seems like they're bringing back the characters from after Endgame. And it's like, I think like hopefully they start to transfer all of this, as some people in the comments were saying, they start to transfer this into the Young Avengers, and we start to lose these guys that are a little bit older. They're lovely. I love them, but I just think their time has passed at this point. And I want to see some future new and exciting things. And I think they have the capabilities of getting people excited for those. But in general, I'm going to be interested. I'm curious. I'm going to check out everything because I've been a fan of this stuff for a while, but I'm a little worried.
It feels like a bit of a not a crapshoot, a buckshot for me, I'd say, with how Phase 4 has been going. You know, when you think about Eternals, Shang-Chi, you have, you know, Moon Knight happening, Hawkeye, which was surprisingly, in my opinion, a really good series. I was not expecting to enjoy it the way I did. And then Miss Marvel coming, and even with, you know, some of the stuff introduced here, it just seems like there's so much that they're shooting for, and we're still not at a point where we can see it coming together. Whereas in Phase 1, you kind of knew they were working towards the Avengers. But what are they working towards now? And I think we still don't have that answer, especially when you have Fantastic Four out there that needs to be introduced at some point. X-Men, which we're definitely getting at some point.
Blade.
Blade, yes, thank you. Blade, which is out
yes.
there. Like, what is happening? And I think without that blueprint, we're going to keep having these conversations of like, what's the future hold? But Sean Chandler, what are your thoughts on all this?
Pretty much echoing everything you just said is what I've been thinking with Phase 4. Like, yeah, I've liked a lot of it.
Mhm.
I haven't totally loved any of it. The way I felt watching No Way Home was cool, but that was more of a Spider-Man experience than an MCU experience. But the big concern is, okay, we're now 17 TV shows and 5 movies into Phase 4. I have no idea what this is building towards.
Mhm.
I don't look and go, okay, right. But I bet Thor will help me understand how this will tie together. And then Black Panther will like seal it. Like, no, that just feels like 2 more things that I think are going to be like, how does this tie together? Because even like Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Black Widow have Elaine Bennis being like, let's have our Dark Avengers. And like, I have no clue how this ties together when you have Celestial, Multiverse, Kang, Wakanda, Thor. I mean, it's like buckshot. It is just everything and no clear thing that ties it together. And you look at what is coming: She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Quantumania, and in no way do I go right. That makes I have no clue where this is going. I have no clue.
I think like another big problem with that is, remember how excited we were when Avengers happened and people from different movies were starring in the same movie?
Mhm.
That was insane. Now it's like,
Yeah.
okay. It's like that
Right.
happens all the time. Like, there's
Right.
nothing new there.
Well, and we're doing 4 or 5 franchises all in one movie, and then jump forward and it was Infinity War, like 17 franchises, space and everything coming together, and we're going to turn everything upside down. And now we're on the back end and it's like, oh, what are we doing now? And it's like, I just don't know.
Yeah. I'm glad that you're bringing all this up, especially the Kang piece of things, because Kang is a major player coming down the way. And there is there's rumors of how like this could have even tied into creating Kang and, all that jazz. But the Julia Louis-Dreyfus thing hit me the other night when I was literally laying in bed. I'm like, where's she been? Like that kind of just fell off. It seems such a separate, distant experience of her popping onto the screen. But then not to mention the whole Eternals thing, whether or not you enjoyed the movie or not, the introduction of the Eternals as well as the Celestials is huge for the MCU. But when you have all these huge things out there, how do they fall into one lane? And I just don't know. I mean,
don't know. If we think about Thanos, Thanos was almost at the end of every single one of these movies being like, oh, I'll do this myself. And like, then he like starts like getting the glove and stuff. Like, we saw Kang at the end of Loki and it was awesome. Like, I loved having Kang in there. He was an absolute blast. Jonathan Majors was a hoot, but like, he should be like at the end of it. Kang?
Kind of Kang.
Oh yeah. What did they actually call him? The he who conquered or something like that. I'm not dealing with that. Like, it's Kang. So like he should like have shown up at the end of this and like just like hung out with Bruce Campbell. Like, can I have some pizza balls? Like just grab one of those. Like something like that.
Coming soon to the Patreon, Sean and I teach you how to make pizza balls.
I am making pizza balls without a doubt.
So before we kind of move into some rants and raves here, I want to get your ranking of the 5 Phase 4 films that we've had so far. It's crazy to me that we've only had 5 because it feels like Phase 4 has been going on for the better part of my 30s. But I'm going to give you my list real quick, which is probably going to be a little surprising to people. Number 5, I go Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Number 4, I go Black Widow. Number 3, I go Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Number 2, I go Spider-Man No Way Home. And number 1, I go Eternals. I was the one that loved the Eternals from the very beginning and continue to. I have watched it multiple times now.
Eternal Stan right here.
Eternal Stan. Sean Chandler, where are you at with this, Mr. Rankings?
Okay. I don't know. That's a great question since I just posted a video on this, so I should know. But
people are going to pull up your other video and be like, well, in this video, he said.
Yeah,
Screwed up.
Yes, they will. Fifth place for me. Let's flip this whole deal. Eternals. I was the other side to it. That's what's the magic of that film. It is so split of
I love it.
like you just watch it and people just see different things. But I was in the crowd that I just felt it imploded under its ambitions. And it's a to me, I watched it in the second time and went, this should have been the Disney Plus show. Make it 10 episodes and give it more time. And I think you could have explored all these themes, these characters, the backstory. That really would have worked. But in a movie, it just felt like a 2 hours and 15 minutes of getting the gang back together, but I don't know who the gang is. And then all of a sudden a couple of them are jerks. And it's like, what just happened? Like and then Salma Hayek, you kill her off before I even met her. And it's like, I don't understand the order in which you're doing all these things and revealing information. So
and Angelina Jolie's there.
Yeah, and Angelina Jolie's there and crazy. The first time I watched it, what's the name of the speedster?
Sprite.
So she's in all the flashbacks, but she wasn't in the present. And we got like 90 minutes, an hour and 45 minutes into it. I was like, wait, did she die in a flashback? Like, where is she? Like, 2 hours into the movie, she's introduced in the present timeline. I was like, people are loving this movie. I'm confused by the choices here. I just don't get it. Anyway, that's a long answer to say that one's a good. And then I think Black Widow then is what I have. And I thought it was good, but it just inconsequential, 5 years too late, but a fun spy movie that got goofy in the last act and wasted Taskmaster. Then Doctor Strange, I think. I don't remember which one I had first. Shang-Chi or those two will probably be fighting each other as I let each of them sink in. But kind of tied would be Shang-Chi and Doctor Strange, or wherever I don't know where we're at. It seems like those two are kind of fighting. Of like they were enjoyable. They had things I thought were great about each of them, and things I thought were like was weird. There were things that felt like the MCU-isms mashed onto them. Yeah. And then I think easily the most enjoyable thus far was Spider-Man No Way Home. But even that was because it was a Spider-Man movie. It was special as a Spider-Man film more so than as an MCU film.
Yeah. Good rankings. Sean.
All right, so it's been interesting because mine have aged both well and better, considering my grades that I gave them. So they're not going to reflect the grades that I have given them in the past. But
what?
For a five for me is Black Widow. Once again, still an enjoyable movie. There's basically I'm hanging on to that one for Florence Pugh's performance. That's an absolute treasure there. For 3 and 4, it's another battling it out, just like Sean Chandler you had. These two. For 4 I put Doctor Strange, 3 I put Eternals, but I'm flipping those a lot. But they're around the same for me. Number 2 is one that aged impeccably well, and I think I'd give a better review now, and that's Shang-Chi. That is one that I think about that more and more, and I'm like, this was actually a great fun-filled romp. And for me, just like you, Sean, Spider-Man No Way Home is just that was just pure. I don't care if it was pure cotton candy. I could care less if it was just there's 3 Spider-Man. I don't care. Give it to me all right there. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Exactly.
There. Completely agree. Spider-Man was such an experience, I think, because it delivered. It delivered on what we had been talking about forever. Lord, if it didn't.
I was certain it wouldn't. I was certain that movie was going to be terrible.
You did keep saying that.
I was really concerned about it too. Of oh man, what are they doing here? How's this going to play out? What's this setup? And I don't want to see Toby show up for 30 seconds. And man, I don't know. And then they actually marketed the movie and they hid 40 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And the thing that would have sold the most tickets, they actually hid it and pulled it off. And it was so good. It was so enjoyable.
Yeah. So, can't disagree with that. Can't disagree.
And maybe it's fan service, but it's not always bad to serve your fans. If you do it right, it's good to serve your fans if you do it right.
Now Sony's riding high. They're you're getting Morbius, you're getting Craven, you're getting
how great are these
Madam
guys?
No.
You got the wrong impression.
Sony's we're back, baby, in Marvel.
3 Morbiuses. Oh
Yeah.
God!
You want crossovers? We'll put Vulture in Morbius.
Yeah, with
Huh?
no explanation whatsoever.
No, I can't go on that. There might be my rant after all this. That's horrible.
Well, that leads us into what we like to wrap up with, is always rants and raves. I'm going to start off here. I have a little bit of a rant, and I think it's just the overhyping of projects. And I think it's it happens in fandoms. We saw it with the Star Wars trilogy, the final Star Wars trilogy. We've seen it with other projects that have come out, like Batman. Even when they were talking about whether we'd see the Joker or not, and you kind of get your excitement level to a certain level, depending on, or certain height, I should say, depending on what you want to see in the film. So I think with all the lists that were coming out weeks prior to Doctor Strange, with what cameos are we going to see, I got myself overhyped for a few of them and was thinking like, wow, this is really going to sort of redirect the multiverse and redirect the MCU. And there's even some comments out there about from Feige back in the day saying like this is going to redefine like where we're going and stuff like that. Maybe it did, and maybe in the future we'll understand that. I didn't get that from this.
Right.
It didn't feel like we redefined. It felt like we just kind of like saw like, hey, yeah, there's that multiverse that we've been teasing for a few films that we played with a little bit, that we let Sony play with a little bit in Spider-Man No Way Home. And I was also a little disappointed in Spider-Man No Way Home, don't get me wrong, because there were other like, what cameos are we going to see? What are we going to see? Some I don't know, other characters come in from other universes. Are we going to see Venom? Are we going to see Miles Morales? And we didn't see it, but what we did get was so satisfying. So I guess with Multiverse of Madness, I just wasn't totally satisfied, and that's because I'm so knee deep in all of these conversations that we're having online and all of the different theorizing we're doing about what's coming down the road. So I that's more of a check for me. It's a rent because I think I'm building these movies up to be something so large that they're never going to meet that expectation that I'm building. But hopefully in the future maybe we'll get a little bit more clarity on where we're going, and I think that will help temper my expectations. Right now I'm just like, they're gonna go nuts, here comes X-Men, here Blade's gonna show up in the middle of Multiverse of Madness and try to chop down Wanda. It didn't happen, but it would have been cool if it did. So hey, there we go.
I just pretty much always expect the absolute worst in every movie, and then once in a while I'm surprised.
Everything everywhere all at once.
Yes. Like hot dog fingers.
Always comes back to the hot dog fingers for me. I was like, what am I watching and why do I love this? Sean, Math Teacher Movies, hit us with your rant.
So mine's a slight one, and I will say the comments for my Doctor Strange review were actually rather respectful, and I appreciate people for that. But I have heard this a lot in the ether, and it just bothers me when this comes in. But being dubbed a Marvel hater for not liking one of their Marvel movies, it's one of those things where it's like, if I don't like Doctor Strange as much, all of a sudden I've hated all of the Marvel movies. And I understand why, because there's an insecurity. Because like some of our greatest filmmakers have said Marvel like movies suck. Now they're wrong. They're wrong on like a couple of levels. First of all, a genre-based level, you shouldn't really close out an entire genre. And also, I think there's like different like aspects of them that are pretty good. And I've given like the majority of Marvel movies like an A or a B. And, this one, it came a little bit lower. And, so I've started to get like, when I heard those comments, once again, directed towards other people, nobody really cares what I think, so they don't say anything to me. But they like directed to other people. I started to doubt myself as a Marvel fan. And then I know why that is because people say like, if you don't just fall in line with every Marvel movie, there's going to be issues. And I just think like,
don't go against
you're
the family.
basically a Marvel hater now, and you just don't like any of the Marvel movies if you don't like this particular one. And I understand why that's true with like this Doctor Strange movie, because it is truly like a zany, crazy Marvel movie with like lots of CGI, lots of creative stuff happening. And so people are just like, well, if you don't like this, you don't like the other ones. And I don't know, it just bothers me that I may not like one particular Star Wars movie. I'm a tremendous Star Wars fan. I think that it goes in other genres and stuff like that. I only like a couple of romantic comedies. That doesn't mean like I hate romantic comedies or I love romantic comedies. I try to like and love every genre of movie, every category of movie, every portion of a movie that I can. And it's just one of those things where I think it's like an all or nothing mentality, which, you know, we're facing in this world anyway. And I understand why we are. I do, because there's like team mentalities that start to get built, like a Marvel team mentality. We have to fortify, we have to protect all our movies because they're under attack by movie snobs. I don't think that's necessarily true. And I think like it's just because like movie snobs do love the Marvel movies as well. We watch the Marvel movies. We see the Marvel movies. We also get engaged in them and love some of them, not all of them. And that's okay. And I think those different opinions should be like, you know, like shared a little bit more. And people are a little bit worried to do that. I was worried posting my review, genuinely, which is odd. All right. Because like 300 people saw it. I think I'm going to be okay. But it's just one of those things where like I was worried about doing that because I was worried about the reaction from people. And that's like kind of, you know, a bummer, but you know, yeah, that's end of my rant, I guess.
You hate one Marvel movie, you hate them all.
Exactly.
You're not a true fan. Sean Chandler, hit us with a rant or a rave.
Oh, let's see what I got for you. Let's see what I don't know what I'm angry about today. I kind of hate the thing that's been on my mind, even to what fellow beautifully named Sean mentioned of the mind reading of people when they disagree with you, that they start trying to read your mind as to why they disagree. And I absolutely get nervous posting certain reviews when I know, like, I don't want to share my thoughts on certain things because I know where it's headed. It's like, I'm doing my best to communicate what I felt and what I think is useful to other people. But I know people are going to play this mind reading game. And I don't want to structure my reviews to try and guess the way people are going to try to attack me and take me out of context and do this nonsense. And there's just people out there right now with how wacky the internet is that are just looking to find something to pounce on, take out of context, and read your mind. You know, we referenced this earlier here on Twitter. Legitimately, I posted before Doctor Strange 2 came out, there was a discussion about, is it for kids? And most MCU films are kind of in that PG-13 and they're Disney safe adventures, that little edgy, maybe one joke that's kind of rough and then one Thanos head cut off or something, but generally pretty safe for kids. And this one just has a lot of stuff that would freak people out. So there's a question of, is it safe for kids? And I just retweeted, like, as someone that takes all my kids to all the Marvel movies, I am not going to take my kids to this movie. But if you're someone that wants more edge to your Marvel movies, you'll probably really enjoy this film. That was the tweet. And someone was just looking to pounce, looking to read my mind, and legitimately took that and went, what he's really saying. And he has this whole thing that was not what I said, not what I implied, not what I meant. And he was just looking to pounce. And everyone, like, not everyone, too many people are looking to find the least gracious interpretation, the most frustrating way to, like, what you really mean is, I see what you're saying. I think you're truly exposing and it's this whole other thing. It's like, it has nothing to do with any of that. And it kills film criticism. It takes the fun out of everything. And, you know, even like, you know, saw some people like, the writers of Doctor Strange Clue clearly didn't understand WandaVision in the arc that she was on. Kevin Feige and his writing team didn't understand, and Elizabeth Olsen didn't understand WandaVision as well as you. I'm guessing they do. I'm guessing that not that they can't make mistakes, not that they can't undo something, but I'm guessing that they probably spent some time thinking about WandaVision. In fact, they were probably structuring WandaVision to set this movie up. Probably. And
what?
Then you have people like trying to like literally like read my, like, they didn't know about it. They undid. Why don't you just say what you're thinking, feeling, and why, and stop trying to read everyone's mind and come up with a malicious reason for why they did something. Stop trying to come up with a character flaw for why someone has a different interpretation, a different opinion, different everything.
Right.
Sometimes we just disagree. And that's actually a very good thing, because the world would be boring if we all agreed on everything. Mm-hmm. You don't have to find a character flaw, a personality flaw, an intelligence flaw, a laziness flaw to explain why someone had a different opinion on something or a different take on what Wanda's next step would be, especially if they put a post-credit scene where she was reading the Book of the Damned.
I disagree with you, Sean, and here's why. No, I'm kidding.
And what I can tell based off what you just said, Sean, is that
what Sean Chandler is trying to say is no, I agree, but there is that part of me where I understand where these people like come at you or come at me or come at Joe, because like I do think about it when like someone says something different about a movie I like, my lizard brain does go off. Now it's in the back, and then I eventually like become someone with empathy. But it's just like one of those things where at first I'm just like, how dare you? I take this as a personal affront. And then like I slowly realize, okay, wait a minute, this is someone disagreeing with me. Let's actually just figure out what's going on. And like, this could be fun. And it's fun. When Joe and I agree, I mean, it's fun because we get to like rave about a movie. But like sometimes when we disagree, it's a little bit more like fun and stuff like that when we go back and forth. He can get me in his arguments. So that's why. But
it's the lawyer in me. Listen, because we've all been agreeing so much, this is why I think Zack Snyder for the director of Fantastic Four will do wonders for the fandom of Marvel. And while we're at it, let's bring Ryan Johnson in to do something with J.J. Abrams. And
he's someone that's very beloved. Ryan Johnson, give him a couple of Star Wars series. He's actually directing Obi-Wan. I hope that's what happens is like all of a sudden after Obi-Wan is out and everyone loves it, a mask just comes off and it's Ryan Johnson. And all the fanboys go, no!
I'm melting. Oh, man. Well, listen, after a great week at the theater with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, next week we have one major new release, and that is Zac Efron's Firestarter, the Stephen King remake, which is hitting Peacock and theaters. So that should be absolutely wonderful. But even more wonderful was that we were able to have Sean Chandler chat about Doctor Strange with us for the past hour and a half, and it was an absolute pleasure. Sean, thanks for being here, and tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on the YouTube. Just look up Sean Chandler. You'll either find an NFL player or a guy that looks like me talking about movies. It's the guy that looks like me that talks about movies. I'm also on the Twitter at Kirk Never Died and on the Instagram at Sean Talks About, because I didn't do that clever thing where you use the same username on everything and have your name on everything. So Kirk Never Died is my very clunky, not helpful Twitter handle.
It always throws me off when I'm trying to tag you. It hits me down the road after I'm frustrated. But once again, thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. Sean and I very much enjoy the conversation. And once again, we actually met in person a couple weeks ago, and that was wonderful as well. So for people that think they know you online, the one thing I can say is that you are as good of a guy in person as you come across online.
Appreciate it.
Except for when you're making me refilm you running up the Rocky steps 17 times.
So if you guys, last month we were at Fan Expo Philadelphia, and we went to you took me on the tour to the Rocky steps and like gave me the history lesson and everything, and then you took on the role that I normally make my wife do, which is film me doing things to create content for the internet. Can you film me running up the stairs 17 times with Austin? Can we get another angle? Can we...
Maybe long ways now. Yeah. Now turn it sideways. Yeah, it was fun though.
That's what real life is like for me. So that's the piece that people miss. The goofy, like grown 40-year-old man. Like, I got to take a couple more selfies from a few more angles. But yeah, that was a lot of fun getting to hang out and spend time together. That was
the life of a content creator, right? Yeah. Well, best of luck on your Michael Scott tour, speaking tour. Looking forward to seeing more from that. Sean, always a blast to chat with you. And if you are interested in hearing more from us, you can hear more through Patreon. Currently $2 a month before it goes back up to $4 a month. A lot of fun content going there. So you can find that link in the show notes below or in our bios. And guys, until next time, let's enjoy whatever Marvel has coming down the road, because I have no idea what they're doing.
Or just some pizza balls.
I'll take them too. Yeah. See ya. As always, thanks for listening. You can follow both Joe and Sean on Instagram at Guy at the Movies and Math Teacher Movies. New episodes of the Guy at the Movies podcast with Joe and Sean are available every Wednesday morning, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, be on the lookout for special spoiler pods, where we dive deep into the latest film releases. If you like what you hear, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.